The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, and for a split second, I thought it was my heart making that sound. My name is Kendall, and I'm about to tell you how my 25th birthday became the day I learned that blood doesn't always run thicker than money, especially when that blood happens to be female. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Dad's voice echoed through the dining room of his ridiculously oversized mansion, the same condescending tone he'd used when I was 7 and asked why Wade got a bigger piece of cake. I hope you understand this is for the best. I stood there in my best dress, the navy blue one Mom always said brought out my eyes, watching my father slide a thick manila envelope across the mahogany table to my brother, the same table where Mom used to help me with calculus homework while Dad taught Wade how to throw a football in the yard. $3.2 million. Wade's smirk was so wide, I could see his back molars. Thanks, Pops. This'll really help with the business. The business? Right. Wade's third failed startup in 2 years, funded entirely by Dad's connections and now, apparently by Mom's trust fund. The trust fund she'd specifically set up for me. I don't understand. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Mom left that money to me. The paperwork clearly states, "Your mother was a brilliant woman," Dad interrupted, swirling his scotch. "But she didn't understand how the world works. Wade needs this money to become a man, to build something. You'll marry rich someday. Find a good husband who can take care of you." The room went silent, except for the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. The same clock that used to chime when Mom would sneak me cookies after dinner, whispering about how smart I was, how I was going to change the world someday. "Take care of me?" I repeated. "That's what women do, honey. They find good men and build families. Wade here, he's got vision. He's got drive." Wade raised his glass. "To family investments and smart decisions." I watched him drink. This golden boy who'd crashed 2 cars, dropped out of business school, and spent the last 6 months playing video games in Dad's basement. This was vision. This was drive. "What about my MIT acceptance letter?" I asked. "What about the scholarship I turned down because you said the trust fund would cover everything?" Dad waved his hand dismissively. "You're smart enough to find other ways. Women always do. Besides, you don't need a fancy degree to be a good wife and mother." Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just this crystalline clarity that cut through 25 years of gaslighting like a laser through fog. "Wade," I said, turning to my brother, "what exactly is this business you're starting?" He straightened up, suddenly animated. "Cryptocurrency mining. It's the future, kin. Digital gold. Dad gets it. Cryptocurrency mining." I nodded slowly. "The same cryptocurrency that's been crashing for 6 months? The same business model that requires massive upfront costs for equipment that'll be obsolete in a year?" Wade's smile faltered. "You don't understand the market. I understand that you've never held a job for more than 3 months. I understand that your last investment opportunity was a pyramid scheme selling protein powder. I understand that you spent spring break in Vegas while I was working 2 jobs to pay for my apartment." "Kendall." Dad's voice carried that warning tone. "That's enough." "Is it?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood. "Because I'm just getting started." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. 3 generations of family photos stared down from the walls. Mom holding me as a baby, Wade's little league trophies, family vacations, where I was always slightly out of frame. You know what Mom used to tell me? I picked up my purse, hands steady despite everything. She said the world would try to make me smaller, but I should never let it. She said that money was my freedom, my chance to prove that women could build empires too. "Your mother was naive," Dad said quietly. "No." I walked toward the door, my heels clicking against the marble. "She was right. She just didn't live long enough to see me prove it." Wade called after me. "Come on, Ken. Don't be dramatic. It's just money." I paused at the doorway, looking back at these two men who'd just stolen my future and called it love. You're right, Wade. It is just money. I smiled, and for the first time all evening, it felt genuine. And if no one's coming to save me, I guess I'll just have to become the sword. That night, I quit both my jobs. After all, I had work to do. The fluorescent lights at Denny's buzzed like angry wasps at 3 a.m. But the Wi-Fi was free and the coffee was bottomless. Perfect for learning Python while living out of my Honda Civic. You want another refill, hun? The waitress, her name tag said Dolores, had been checking on me every hour for the past 3 weeks. Please. I pushed my mug forward without looking up from my laptop screen. And maybe some more of those little creamer cups? You know we got a breakfast special starting in 2 hours. Real food. Thanks, but I'm good with the coffee. Dolores lingered. Honey, I've been working nights for 15 years. I know the difference between someone pulling an all-nighter and someone who ain't got nowhere else to go. I finally looked up. Her eyes were kind but tired, the kind of tired that comes from raising kids on tips and 3 hours of sleep. I'm between places right now, I said. Uh-huh. She refilled my cup. Well, the manager don't come in till 7. Just saying. After she walked away, I went back to my code. 12 weeks of 18-hour days, and I finally had something that worked. Not just worked, something that could change everything. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. Kendall, we need to talk. This silent treatment is childish. I deleted it and kept typing. The idea had come to me during week 2 of sleeping in parking lots. I'd been at a 24-hour laundromat, using their Wi-Fi to research coding boot camps I couldn't afford, when I overheard 2 women talking. I reported him to HR 3 times, one said, folding her work clothes. They said they'd look into it. That was 6 months ago. Same thing happened to my sister, the other replied, except she got fired for being difficult. That's when it clicked. Women needed a way to document workplace harassment and discrimination that couldn't be buried, deleted, or ignored. Something secure, anonymous, but legally admissible. I called it Protectra. The platform used blockchain technology to create tamper-proof records. Women could upload evidence, emails, recordings, photos, and the system would verify and timestamp everything. AI would analyze patterns across companies, flagging serial offenders and systemic problems. But the real genius was the network effect. The more women used it, the more powerful it became. Excuse me, are you Kendall? I looked up to find a woman in an expensive blazer standing by my table. Mid-40s, silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun, the kind of presence that commanded boardrooms. Depends who's asking. Haley Young, I got your email about Protectra. She slid into the booth across from me. Interesting pitch, though I have to say, meeting at Denny's is a first. I'd sent cold emails to 50 venture capitalists. 49 had either ignored me or sent form rejections. Haley was the only one who'd responded. I'm between offices right now, I said. I can see that. She gestured to my laptop, surrounded by empty coffee cups and crumpled napkins covered in code snippets. Tell me about the technical architecture. For the next hour, I walked her through everything. The encryption protocols, the AI pattern recognition, the legal framework I'd researched. She asked sharp questions, the kind that showed she actually understood the technology. The market research is solid, she said finally. The tech is impressive for a solo build. But I have concerns about scalability. What kind of concerns? You're one person with no team, no office, and from what I can tell, no permanent address. How do I know you won't disappear with my money? I closed my laptop. Because I've got nowhere to disappear to, this is all I have left. Something shifted in her expression. What happened? My family decided I wasn't worth investing in, so I'm investing in myself. Haley was quiet for a long moment, studying me. You know what the other VCs told me when I started my fund? That women don't understand business, that we're too emotional to make hard decisions. What did you tell them? Nothing. I just started making more money than they did. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to make some calls. Can you be at my office tomorrow at 10? Which office? The one in downtown. Wear something that doesn't smell like French fries. The next morning, I stood in Haley's glass-walled conference room, wearing the same navy dress from my birthday dinner. It was the only professional outfit I owned that still fit after 3 months of living on coffee and determination. $5 million, Haley said, sliding a term sheet across the table. 15% equity. Standard investor protections. I stared at the numbers. Are you serious? Dead serious. But I have conditions. You hire a CTO within 60 days. You get a real office, not a Denny's booth, and you let me introduce you to some people who can help. What kind of people? The kind who've been waiting their whole careers for something like this. She smiled. Welcome to the big leagues, Kendall. That afternoon, I used my first advance to buy something I'd been dreaming about for months. A house, 2 doors down from where I grew up. The realtor handed me the keys with a confused look. It's a bit of a fixer-upper. Are you sure you want to start here? I looked at Dad's mansion looming at the end of the street, its perfect lawn and pristine facade. Trust me, I said. This is exactly where I want to start. Empowerment Row Enterprises? Noelle squinted at the paperwork spread across her desk. That's what you want to call the LLC? Too on the nose? I asked, signing another stack of documents. Honey, you're buying up an entire street through shell companies while hiding your identity. Subtle went out the window 3 houses ago. She stamped another deed. But I like it. Has a nice ring to it. Noelle had been the only real estate broker willing to work with my unconventional approach. Most agents balked when I explained I wanted to purchase properties through multiple LLCs with my name nowhere on the paperwork. That's the Henderson place done, she said, sliding the keys across her desk. 4 down, 3 to go. What about the corner house? The blue one with the swing set? Noelle's expression shifted. That's going to be trickier. Single mom, behind on payments. Banks already started foreclosure proceedings. How far behind? 18,000. She's been trying to work out a payment plan, but Noelle shrugged. You know how banks are. I knew exactly how banks were. They'd foreclosed on 3 families on this street in the past 2 years, selling to developers who turned single-family homes into rental properties. Set up a meeting with her. I want to make an offer. Kendall, if you're planning what I think you're planning, you need to be careful. Buying someone's house out from under them, even to help. I'm not buying it out from under her. I'm buying it for her. The next morning, I knocked on the blue house's front door. A woman about my age answered, holding a toddler on her hip. She had the exhausted look of someone juggling 3 jobs and still coming up short. You must be Simone, I said. I'm Kelly from Empowerment Row Enterprises. We spoke on the phone. Right. Come in. She shifted the little girl to her other hip. Sorry about the mess. Mia's been sick, and I haven't had time to... Don't apologize. I have a proposition for you. We sat in her living room, which was spotless despite her apologies. Toys were neatly organized in bins, and children's artwork covered the refrigerator. It reminded me of something, though I couldn't place what. Noelle said you're interested in buying the house, Simone said. I have to be honest. I can't afford to move right now. The deposit alone. What if you didn't have to move? She blinked. I don't understand. I want to buy your house and lease it back to you. Market rate rent, but with an option to buy it back within 5 years at today's price. That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Because 12 years ago, I sat in this same living room while my mom helped your predecessor with her math homework. Because I remember what it felt like to watch a family get evicted while my father counted his money upstairs. Because everyone deserves a second chance, I said instead. Simone was quiet for a long moment. What's the catch? No catch. Just a woman helping another woman. Mama? Who's the lady? The little girl, Mia, peeked around her mother's shoulder. She had dark curls and curious eyes that reminded me of someone. This is Kelly, baby. She's here to talk about the house. Mia studied me with the intensity only children possess. Are you going to make us leave? The question hit me like a physical blow. I knelt down to her eye level. No, sweetheart. I'm here to help you stay. Later that afternoon, I met Palmer at the coffee shop downtown. He'd been Haley's recommendation, a lawyer who specialized in creative real estate solutions. 7 properties total, he said, reviewing my files, all purchased through separate LLCs, all traced back to shell companies registered in Delaware. It's legal, but it's also going to raise questions eventually. What kind of questions? The kind that come with zoning notices and city planning meetings. He pulled out a thick folder. Speaking of which, you're going to need permits for what you're planning. Major renovation permits. For what? Kendall, you can't turn a residential street into a mixed-use development without city approval. If you want co-working spaces, childcare facilities, and retail... Who said anything about retail? Palmer gave me a look. Your business plan. The one you filed with the state when you registered Empowerment Row Enterprises. Right. The business plan I'd written at 3 a.m. in a caffeine-fueled haze, dreaming of something bigger than just buying houses. What do we need to do? File with the City Planning Commission, public hearings, community input sessions? He paused. And you'll need to deal with Melvin White. Who's Melvin White? City zoning official. He's been here forever. Knows where all the bodies are buried. Also happens to be the same guy who approved the evictions on your street for the past 5 years. I remembered Melvin. He used to live 3 houses down when I was a kid, always complaining about property values and undesirable elements. He and Dad used to have screaming matches over the fence about lawn maintenance. Set up a meeting. Kendall, maybe you should... Set up the meeting, Palmer. That evening, I walked the street I was slowly, methodically purchasing. Most of the houses were dark, their owners working late shifts or already asleep. But Simone's house glowed with warm light, and I could see her through the window, helping Mia with what looked like a puzzle. It was such a simple scene, but something about it made my chest tight. Maybe it was the way Simone's face lit up when Mia got a piece right. Maybe it was the memory of my own mother, patient and encouraging, believing I could solve any problem. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Zoning notice will be delivered tomorrow. Hope you know what you're doing. M.W. I looked up at Dad's house at the end of the street. Every light was on, as always. Wade's BMW was in the driveway, probably there for another family dinner I wasn't invited to. Tomorrow, they'd find a zoning notice on their door. Tomorrow, they'd start asking questions about Empowerment Row Enterprises. I smiled and kept walking. Dad, what the hell is Empowerment Row Enterprises? Wade's voice carried through the thin walls of my temporary office. The house I'd bought 2 doors down from childhood. I could see them through my window, standing on Dad's front porch, Wade waving a yellow zoning notice like a battle flag. How should I know? Dad snatched the paper from Wade's hands. Some feminist nonsense, probably. City's full of bleeding hearts these days. It says here they're planning to convert the entire street into a women-focused innovation district. What does that even mean? I smiled and turned back to my laptop, where the Protectra launch countdown showed 18 hours remaining. Kendall, you need to see this. Palmer burst through my front door without knocking, tablet in hand. The press release went live an hour ago. The headline made my heart race. Tech startup announces revolutionary women's safety platform. Plans innovative live work community. TechCrunch picked it up, Palmer continued, scrolling through notifications. So did Forbes. And the Wall Street Journal wants an interview. With who? We haven't announced a CEO yet. That's the problem. They're digging. Someone leaked that Empowerment Row Enterprises is connected to Protectra. It's only a matter of time before my phone rang. Haley. Kendall, we have a situation. Channel 7 News is outside my office asking about our mystery CEO. How do you want to handle this? Through the window, I watched Dad pace his driveway while Wade gestured wildly at the zoning notice. Schedule a press conference, I said. Tomorrow at noon. The community center on 5th Street. Are you sure you're ready for this? I looked at my reflection in the dark window. 6 months ago, I'd been sleeping in my car. Now I was about to become the public face of a company that could change everything. I've been ready my whole life. The next morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror in my new office, applying lipstick with steady hands. The navy dress had been replaced by a sharp black blazer and heels that clicked with authority. Nervous? Palmer asked, adjusting his tie. Terrified, I admitted. But that's different than nervous. The community center was packed. Reporters filled the first 3 rows. Cameras lined the back wall, and curious neighbors crowded the remaining seats. I spotted Simone near the middle, Mia coloring quietly beside her. Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator announced, please welcome the CEO and founder of Protectra and Empowerment Row Enterprises. I walked to the podium, my heels echoing in the sudden silence. Good morning. My name is Kendall, and I'm here to talk about the future. For 20 minutes, I explained Protectra's mission, the technology behind it, and our vision for Empowerment Row. I talked about creating safe spaces for women to work, innovate, and support each other. I talked about changing the conversation around workplace harassment and discrimination. Questions? A reporter in the front row raised her hand. Ms. Kendall, what inspired you to create this platform? Personal experience. I've seen too many women silenced, dismissed, or pushed aside. This platform gives them a voice that can't be ignored. What about the community development aspect? Why this particular neighborhood? Because sometimes change has to start at home. Can you elaborate on your background? Our research shows very little public information about you. I paused, scanning the crowd. In the back, near the door, I spotted a familiar figure. Dad, his face pale, gripping the back of a chair. I grew up believing that hard work and talent would be enough. That if I was smart enough, dedicated enough, someone would eventually recognize my worth. I looked directly at him. I was wrong, so I decided to recognize it myself. More questions followed, about funding, about timelines, about the technical specifications of the platform. I answered them all with the confidence of someone who'd spent 6 months preparing for this moment. One final question, the moderator announced. A local reporter stood up. There are rumors that you have personal connections to this neighborhood. Can you comment on that? I do have personal connections here. This is where I learned that the world doesn't always value women the way it should. This is where I decided to change that. The press conference ended to scattered applause. As reporters packed up their equipment, I noticed Dad hadn't moved from his spot by the door. Kendall. His voice was barely audible over the crowd noise. I walked toward him, my heels clicking against the linoleum floor. Hello, Dad. His face cycled through emotions, shock, confusion, something that might have been pride, and finally, fear. You're behind all this? I'm behind all of it. The zoning notices, the property purchases, the everything. Wade appeared beside him, his usual smirk replaced by something closer to panic. Ken, what the hell are you doing? Building something. The way you taught me to, Wade, with vision and drive. This is insane, Dad said. You can't just buy up an entire neighborhood because you're angry about what? About you stealing my inheritance? About you giving my future to someone who's crashed 2 cars and failed at every business he's ever touched? The remaining crowd had gone quiet, sensing the drama unfolding near the exit. We raised you, Dad said quietly. We gave you everything. No, I replied, my voice steady. You gave Wade everything. You gave me reasons. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Dad, you might want to check your mailbox when you get home. I think you'll find it very interesting. As I walked away, I heard Wade whisper, "What's in the mailbox?" But I was already gone, heels clicking toward the future I'd built with my own hands. The knock on my door came at 7 p.m. sharp, just as I'd expected. I opened it to find Dad standing on my porch, the eviction notice crumpled in his shaking hand. 30 days? His voice cracked. You're giving us 30 days? That's standard, I said, not moving aside to let him in. Actually, it's generous. Most notices give 15. Kendall, please. We need to talk about this. I stepped back and gestured him inside. He looked around my living room. Sparse furniture, laptops on every surface, whiteboards covered in business plans. Nice place, he said weakly. It's functional. I sat down across from him. What did you want to talk about? This. He waved the notice. This is madness. You can't evict your own family. Watch me. We raised you. The words hung in the air between us. I'd been waiting for this moment, this exact phrase, for 6 months. Did you? I leaned forward. Because I remember raising myself. I remember making my own breakfast every morning because you were too busy coaching Wade's little league team. I remember walking to school alone while you drove him to practice. I remember showing you my science fair project, the one that won first place, and you told me to put it away because Wade was trying to watch TV. Dad's face flushed. You're being dramatic. Am I? When I got into MIT, you know what you said? That's nice, honey. When Wade got a participation trophy for showing up to baseball practice, you threw a party. Your mother and I loved you both equally. Don't. My voice cut through his protest like glass. Don't you dare bring Mom into this. She's the only reason I survived growing up in that house. The front door slammed open. Wade stumbled in, reeking of alcohol and fury. There she is, he slurred, the family destroyer. Wade, you're drunk, Dad said. Course I'm drunk. My sister's trying to steal our house. He pointed an unsteady finger at me. All this for revenge? Really, Ken? I stood up slowly. No, Wade, this isn't for revenge. Then what? This is for every time I believed I was nothing. The words exploded out of me. 6 months of controlled rage finally breaking free. This is for every time you made me feel like I didn't matter. This is for every time Dad chose you over me. Every time he dismissed my dreams. Every time he made me feel like my only value was finding some man to take care of me. Wade staggered backward. Jesus, Ken. This is for the trust fund Mom left me. The one she specifically earmarked for my education, my future, my independence, that you handed over to him like I didn't exist. We thought, Dad started. You thought what? That I'd just disappear? That I'd find some rich husband and forget about the $3 million you stole from me? We didn't steal anything, Wade said. Dad made a business decision. A business decision. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. How's that business going, Wade? Still mining cryptocurrency? Or did you blow it all on another get-rich-quick scheme? Wade's face went pale. That's not. Where's the money, Wade? Silence. Where? Is the money? There were some setbacks, Dad said quietly. Setbacks? The market crashed, Wade mumbled. The equipment was more expensive than we thought. And there were some legal fees. Legal fees? Wade wouldn't meet my eyes. The DUI last month, and the one before that. I felt something cold settle in my chest. How much is left? Kendall, Dad started. How much? About 400,000, Wade whispered. The room went silent except for the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. $3 million. Mom's life insurance. Her savings. Everything she'd worked for. reduced to 400,000 because my father thought my brother needed to become a man. Get out, I said quietly. Kendall, we can work this out, Dad pleaded. Get out of my house. This is family, Wade shouted. You can't just… Family. I walked to the door and held it open. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't dismiss each other's dreams. Family doesn't choose favorites and pretend it's love. Dad stood up slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Your mother wouldn't want this. My mother wanted me to be independent. She wanted me to have choices. She wanted me to never have to depend on anyone else for my worth. I met his eyes. She got her wish. They shuffled toward the door, Wade muttering curses under his breath. The eviction stands, I said as they reached the porch. 30 days. Where are we supposed to go? Dad asked. I don't know. Maybe Wade can figure it out. He's the one with vision and drive, right? After they left, I walked to my window and looked out at the street. Simone's house glowed with a warm light. I could see her through the kitchen window, helping Mia with homework at the same table where my mother used to help me. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news coverage. Impressive work. We should meet. M.W. Melvin White, the city zoning official who'd been rubber stamping evictions for years. I stared at the message, then looked back at Simone's house, at the little girl who reminded me so much of myself at that age, curious, bright, believing the world was fair. Was I helping anyone? Or was I just burning everything down because I could? My phone buzzed again. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., City Hall. Come alone. I typed back, see you there. But as I hit send, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to discover the difference between justice and revenge. And I wasn't sure I was ready for the answer. Melvin White's office smelled like stale coffee and old paperwork. He sat behind a metal desk that had seen better decades, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up like he'd been working hard. But his eyes were sharp, calculating. Kendall, or should I say the mystery CEO everyone's talking about? Kendall's fine. I sat down across from him, keeping my posture straight. You wanted to meet. I did. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Empowerment Row Enterprises. Clever name. Clever operation. 7 properties purchased through shell companies. All perfectly legal. Thank you. Wasn't a compliment. He opened a thick folder. See, I've been doing some digging. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look. He slid a photograph across the desk. It showed me at age 12, standing next to my mother at a city council meeting. Caitlin Grant's daughter. I remember her. Always fighting the good fight, your mom. Trying to stop evictions, protect renters' rights. He chuckled. Lot of good it did her. What's your point, Melvin? My point is that apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You're planning something big, and I want in. I kept my expression neutral. In on what? Don't play dumb. You're not buying up a street for nostalgia. You want to redevelop, turn this into some kind of tech campus. That requires permits, lots of them. And I'm the guy who approves those permits. He leaned forward. For the right price. How much? $2 million. Cash. I almost laughed. $2 million for permits that should cost maybe $50,000? Supply and demand, sweetheart. I've got the supply, you've got the demand. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out my own folder. Interesting proposal. But I have a counteroffer. His smug expression faltered slightly. What kind of counteroffer? The kind where you approve my permits at standard rates, and I don't share these with the FBI. I slid a stack of documents across his desk. Melvin's face went white as he flipped through the pages. Bank records, email printouts, property transfer documents. Where did you get these? Turns out when you hire a good forensic accountant, they can trace all sorts of interesting patterns, like how you've been taking kickbacks from developers for years, how you fast-tracked evictions for properties you had financial interest in. This is the Morrison family on Oak Street, the elderly couple on Elm, the single mother with 3 kids on Pine. I leaned forward. You rubber-stamped their evictions, then sold their properties to your brother-in-law's development company for pennies on the dollar. Melvin's hands were shaking now. You can't prove. I can prove all of it. Bank transfers, shell company registrations, property flips. It's all here. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the evidence of his own corruption. What do you want? Full approval for the Empowerment Row development. Standard fees, expedited timeline, and you're going to personally ensure there are no bureaucratic delays. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning, copies of this file go to the FBI, the State Attorney General, and every news outlet in the city. Melvin closed the folder with trembling hands. You're just like your mother. Righteous. Naive. No, I said, standing up. I'm nothing like my mother. She believed the system would do the right thing. I know better. I was halfway to the door when he called after me. You think you're some kind of hero? You're just another rich kid playing games with other people's lives. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Maybe, but at least I'm playing to win. The drive back to the neighborhood should have felt like victory. Instead, I felt hollow. I'd just blackmailed a corrupt official, and it had been easier than ordering coffee. I parked outside my house and noticed a moving truck in Simone's driveway. My stomach dropped. Simone, I called out, jogging across the street. She was loading boxes into the truck, her face streaked with tears. Mia sat on the front steps, clutching a stuffed animal. What's happening? I thought we had a deal. We did. She didn't look at me until I got the eviction notice this morning. What eviction notice? From Empowerment Row Enterprises. Apparently the property needs to be vacant for renovations. She finally met my eyes. Funny thing is, the notice was dated 3 days ago, right around the time you bought the house. My blood turned to ice. Simone, I didn't. Save it. She hefted another box. You know what the worst part is? I actually believed you. I thought you were different. I am different. This is a mistake. Is it? Because it seems like you're just another rich person who says all the right things until it's inconvenient. I pulled out my phone, frantically calling Palmer. It went straight to voicemail. Palmer, call me back immediately. There's been a mistake with the Simone property. Fix it now. But Simone was already loading the last box. Where will you go? I asked. My sister's place across town. Mia will have to change schools, leave her friends. She slammed the truck door. But hey, at least you'll have your perfect development. Mama, why are we leaving? Mia asked, looking up at me with those curious eyes. Because sometimes people aren't who they pretend to be, baby. I watched them drive away, Mia's face pressed against the rear window, watching her home disappear. My phone buzzed. A text from Palmer. Eviction was automatic. Standard LLC procedure when properties are flagged for development. Thought you knew. I stared at the message, then at the empty house where a family had lived an hour ago. I'd spent months planning my revenge, calculating every move, anticipating every obstacle, but I'd never considered the possibility that in my quest to right old wrongs, I might create new ones. The house stood empty now, just another piece of property in my growing empire, just like I'd always wanted. So why did it feel like I lost something instead? I found Simone at her sister's apartment complex across town, unloading boxes in the rain. The building was old, with peeling paint and a broken security gate. A far cry from the house with the swing set. Simone, wait! She didn't stop moving. What do you want, Kendall? Or Kelly? Or whatever your real name is today. I want to fix this. Fix what? The lie? The eviction? Or the fact that my daughter cried herself to sleep last night because she doesn't understand why we had to leave? I stepped closer, rain soaking through my jacket. Come back. Be the face of Empowerment Row. Help me build something that actually matters. She finally stopped, a box balanced against her hip. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. I need someone who understands what we're really trying to do. Someone who's lived it. Lived what? Being manipulated by rich people who think money fixes everything? Being dismissed? Being underestimated? Being told you don't matter? I wiped rain from my face. I screwed up, Simone. But I can make it right. How? Full-time position, 6-figure salary, housing allowance, and Mia gets first priority for the child care center we're building. Simone stared at me for a long moment. What's the catch? No catch. Just a chance to build something better. For who? You? Or the women you claim to be helping? Both. Maybe that's the only way it works. 3 weeks later, Simone stood beside me at the podium in the community center, this time as my co-director of community development. Empowerment Row isn't just about technology, she told the packed room. It's about creating opportunities for women who've been told they don't belong in boardrooms, in tech spaces, in leadership roles. The audience included reporters, city officials, and dozens of women from across the city. In the back, I spotted Haley, nodding approvingly. We're launching with 3 initiatives, I continued. Subsidized co-working spaces for women-owned businesses, on-site childcare with STEM programming, and microloans for female entrepreneurs who can't get traditional funding. A reporter raised her hand. How do you respond to critics who say this is just gentrification with a feminist spin? By pointing to our community advisory board, Simone answered before I could. Every decision goes through residents first. This isn't development happening to the community. It's development happening with the community. After the press conference, I drove to the one place I'd been avoiding for months. Dad's house sat at the end of the street, a for sale sign planted in the front yard. The realtor let me in with a knowing look. Interested buyer? Something like that. The house felt smaller than I remembered. The grand staircase seemed ordinary. The dining room where I'd lost my inheritance looked tired and dated. Family photos still lined the hallways, but they felt like artifacts from someone else's life. I found myself in Mom's old music room. Her piano sat in the corner, covered with a sheet. I pulled it away, revealing the mahogany surface she'd polished every Sunday. The keys were dusty but still in tune. My fingers found the melody she used to play when I couldn't sleep, a lullaby she'd hummed while braiding my hair. I didn't know you still played. I turned to find Dad standing in the doorway. He looked older, grayer, like the fight had gone out of him. I don't. Not really. Your mother loved that song. He stepped into the room. She used to say it was the only thing that could calm you down when you were little. What are you doing here? I thought you'd moved out. Came back for some things. Didn't expect to find you here. We stood in awkward silence, the weight of months of anger hanging between us. I bought the house, I said finally. I figured. Anonymous cash offer. No inspection. Had your fingerprints all over it. Are you angry? He was quiet for a long moment. I'm proud of you. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? You built something. From nothing. After we... He trailed off. After I failed you. Dad, your mother would be proud too. She always said you'd change the world someday. He smiled sadly. She just never said you'd have to burn ours down first. I turned back to the piano, my fingers finding the melody again. I'm not trying to burn anything down. I'm trying to build something better. I know. That's what makes it hurt. We sat there in the empty room, the lullaby filling the space between us. For a moment, I was 7 years old again, safe in my mother's arms, believing the world was fair and love was enough. But I wasn't 7 anymore. And love, I'd learned, wasn't nearly enough. The eviction notice expires tomorrow, I said, without looking at him. I know. You could fight it. Hire lawyers. Make this difficult. I could. He stood up. But I won't. Why not? Because maybe it's time I learned what it feels like to lose something I thought I deserved. After he left, I sat alone at Mom's piano, playing her lullaby in an empty house that now belonged to me. Outside, construction crews were already breaking ground on the first co-working space. Simone's house, her real house, the one I'd bought back for her, glowed with warm light. I'd won. I'd gotten everything I'd wanted. So why did victory feel so much like grief? The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who looked apologetic as he handed it over. Kendall Grant versus Philip and Wade Wolf, I read aloud to Palmer, who was reviewing construction permits at my kitchen table. Exploitation of personal assets, emotional terrorism, seeking damages of $5 million. Palmer looked up from his paperwork. Emotional terrorism? Is that even a legal term? Apparently it is now. I flipped through the pages. They're claiming I used insider family knowledge to deliberately cause psychological harm. Can they prove that? I thought about the eviction notice, the public humiliation, the systematic dismantling of everything they thought they deserved. Probably. My phone buzzed. Simone, texting from the new child care center. Mia wants to show you her coding project. Can you stop by? I walked across the street to what used to be the Henderson Place, now transformed into a bright, modern space filled with children's laughter. Mia ran up to me, tablet in hand. Miss Kendall, look what I made. On the screen was a simple animation, a little girl building a rocket ship piece by piece until it soared into space. It's beautiful, Mia. What's it about? It's about not giving up. Even when people say you can't do something. She looked up at me with those serious eyes. Mama says you never gave up. Your mama's very smart. She says you're building a place where girls like me can grow up to be anything we want. I knelt down to her level. What do you want to be? Everything, she said with the confidence only children possess. A scientist and a teacher and a mom and a boss. Then you will be. That afternoon, I sat in my lawyer's office, the lawsuit spread across the conference table. We can fight this, my attorney said. Their case is weak, mostly emotional arguments. What if we don't fight it? Excuse me? What if we settle? Give them what they're asking for. Kendall, that's $5 million. You'd be admitting fault. I picked up the lawsuit, scanning the accusations again. Emotional terrorism. Deliberate psychological harm. Exploitation. Maybe I am at fault. You're not serious. I took their home. I humiliated them publicly. I used everything I knew about their weaknesses against them. I set the papers down. How is that different from what they did to me? Because they stole from you first. Because they dismissed you, underestimated you. And I proved them wrong. I built something incredible. I helped dozens of women start businesses, created jobs, changed lives. I stood up. Why do I need their suffering too? The settlement meeting took place in a sterile conference room downtown. Dad and Wade sat across from me, their lawyer between them like a shield. $5 million, their attorney began, plus a public apology and agreement to cease all harassment. Counteroffer, I interrupted. $1 million, no apology, and Wade gets a job. Wade's head snapped up. What kind of job? Community outreach coordinator, $40,000 a year. You'll help connect local families with our services. I don't want your charity, he said. It's not charity. It's work. Real work. The kind where you show up every day and earn your paycheck. Dad leaned forward. What's the catch? No catch. Just a chance to be part of something that matters. Why? Wade asked. After everything? I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. Underneath the entitlement and smugness, I saw something I'd missed before. Fear. The same fear I'd carried for months. The terror of not being enough. Because Mom would have wanted us to figure it out. The lawyers spent an hour hammering out details. Wade would start Monday. Dad would receive a lump sum payment, not 5 million, but enough to start over somewhere new. As we prepared to leave, Dad approached me. Kendall, I need you to know. Don't. I held up a hand. We're not going to have some tearful reconciliation. We're not going to pretend the past didn't happen. Then what are we doing? We're moving forward, separately, but not as enemies. I walked outside into the afternoon sun. Empowerment Row stretched before me. Construction crews putting finishing touches on the second co-working building. Women pushing strollers toward the childcare center. The sound of children playing in the new community garden. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news about the settlement. Proud of you for taking the high road. H. Haley. Always watching. Always guiding from the shadows. I typed back, not sure it was the high road. Might have just been the right road. As I walked home, I passed Simone's house. Through the window, I could see her helping Mia with homework, the same patient encouragement I remembered from my own childhood. The lawsuit was over. The street was transformed. The company was thriving. But the real victory wasn't in the buildings or the bank accounts or the headlines. It was in the little girl learning to code, believing she could be anything. It was in the women starting businesses in spaces designed for their success. It was in the choice to build something better instead of just tearing something down. I pulled out the lawsuit one last time, flipped it over, and wrote on the back, maybe next time you'll raise a daughter instead of a disappointment. Then I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Some victories don't need witnesses. Some revenge is just living well. And sometimes the best way to win is to stop keeping score.